Thank you so much for joining. Today we are making some easy mac and cheese. So for this recipe, what you're gonna need is you're going to need some flour, you're gonna need some milk, any kind of milk you like. You're going to need some macaroni here in a box. You're gonna need some salt and some cheese. I have chosen to use marble cheese, but you can use whatever kind of cheese you like. You're gonna need a 1 cup measuring cup. You're going to need some measuring spoons and a liquid measuring cup. And then you can pick whatever spices that you would like to add to this. So for me, I'm gonna keep it simple and I'm gonna use some ground pepper and some parsley for my mac and cheese. So go ahead and grab those ingredients. And then the next thing I want you to do is go wash your hands if you haven't already. And finally, what you're gonna do is you are going to bring a large pot full of water to boil, okay? So go ahead and fill a pot full of water and let it start boiling, and then we will go from there. Okay everyone, as you can see, I have a large pot here full of water that is boiling. What I'm gonna do, and I want you to do this as well, is you're gonna add some salt to this water. Okay? And the reason we do this is to avoid sticking. We don't want the macaroni to stick to each other, so just add a bit of salt. It doesn't need to be exact, a measurement. Okay, once you add the salt, you need to measure out 1 cup of your macaroni. So I'm gonna try and do this in front of you so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got my 1 cup measuring cup. Okay, so I know 1 cup doesn't seem like a lot, but once it expands, it's actually going to be quite a bit. So once you've measured that out and once your water is boiling, go ahead and add this 1 cup of macaroni to your boiling water. Okay, what you're gonna do now is you're going to let this boil for approximately 8 minutes, okay? Stirring once in a while. So you don't need to stir constantly, but stir once in a while. So again, we're gonna let this sit here and boil for approximately 8 minutes until it's considered al dente. So what I like to do is after about 7 minutes, I'm gonna take a piece or two out of my boiling water and I'm going to taste test it and see if I like the texture. So go ahead and let this boil for about 8 minutes until it's perfectly done in your opinion, and then we'll come right back. Okay everybody, my pasta has been boiling for about 8 minutes and I've turned off the heat from the stove. So my pasta right now looks great, and as you can see, it has really expanded to make pretty much a full pot of macaroni. So what I'm gonna get you to do now is drain this in a strainer and then put it back into the pot once you strain it. So once you strain all the water from it, put it right back into the pot and then set it aside. Okay, so as you can see, I have my pasta drained and it is still in the pot, and I've just set that aside for now. So what you are going to need to grab at this point in time is you're going to need to grab a small saucepan, and you are going to need to get your milk and your flour ready. So for the next part of the recipe, we are going to place 1 cup of milk in a medium saucepan over medium heat to warm the milk. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're gonna put 1 cup of milk on medium heat. So there's about 1 cup there. I'm gonna put that in my saucepan and I'm gonna start heating that up. So I have it on medium heat. So we're gonna be warming the milk now to make our cheese sauce. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to put the remaining half cup of flour in a small bowl with our flour. And we need to whisk it until there are no lumps. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my milk again and measure out 1/2 cup. Okay, so there's 1/2 cup of milk, and I'm just gonna put that in my bowl. Next, I'm going to measure out 2 tablespoons of flour. So what I'm gonna get you to do is grab yourself a butter knife so that you can measure out perfectly your flour. So I've got my butter knife here. So we only need 2 tablespoons. So I'm just gonna scoop in and level off. I'm gonna put that in my bowl here, not on the stove. There's my second tablespoon. So 2 tablespoons of flour in with our milk there. Okay. Now we're gonna whisk this together until there are no lumps. So I'm just gonna grab a whisk and we're just gonna start whisking until you see no lumps. It shouldn't take long. Okay. So I don't see any lumps in my milk here, so I'm gonna stop whisking. So this next step, I'm gonna need you to listen very, very carefully. Once you begin to see steam rising from your milk here, you are going to add this into here, but don't worry, I will walk you through that. But for now, just simply take a wooden spoon, stir this once in a while so that the milk doesn't burn. But as soon as you start to see steam rising from your milk, come right back. Okay, everybody, as you might be able to see, there is steam now rising from my milk here. So now what we're gonna do is at this point, we're going to take our 1/2 cup of milk with our flour, and we're just going to place that in with our milk that's on the stove. So now we're just mixing both of the milks together. So again, take that 1/2 cup of milk that you have in that bowl with the flour, and you're just gonna pour it into the milk on the stove. Now, at this point, we are going to whisk our milk on the stove for about 3 to 4 minutes until it starts to resemble heavy cream. So just until it gets a little bit thicker. And that's going to take about 2 to 3 minutes. So I'll start this with you and see where we get. So I'm not sure if maybe you've figured it out already, but our flour and milk mixture is what is going to make this thick. It's that flour component that will make this milk thicken. And if you ever feel like your milk is getting too hot, or sometimes it might start to bubble over, immediately take it off of the heat and just lower your heat, okay? It's no big deal. Okay. We're coming up on about maybe a minute here. So we're still gonna need to do this for a couple more minutes. So what I'm gonna get you to do is keep doing this for about 2 to 3 more minutes. And then we're gonna come back and we're gonna see what we're left with. Okay everybody, it's been about 2 to 3 minutes and I have been whisking and mixing my milk here. So as you might be able to see in the video here, it is about the texture of heavy cream. So it's not super thick, that's not what we want, but it's about the texture of heavy cream. So definitely thicker than it was before, and I think it's absolutely perfect. So now we are going to begin grating our cheese for our mac and cheese. So go ahead and grab a cheese grater, a cutting board, and your block of cheese. Okay, it is time to start grating our cheese. Now for this recipe, you need between 2 and 3 cups of shredded cheese. For me personally, I'm gonna start with 2 cups of cheese and then go from there. So I'm gonna measure out 2 cups of cheese. So I'm just gonna use the regular spot here on my cheese grater. And we're just gonna grate our cheese. So hopefully you're following along with me and you've got your cheese and your cheese grater here. Again, you can use whatever kind of cheese that you would like, but for me, I'm using marble because it's a mix of 2 kinds of cheese. Okay, so I'm just gonna see what I have here. I'm just gonna slowly kind of measure out here my cheese. Okay, so I have approximately 1 cup of cheese already. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in a small bowl. And I'm gonna go ahead and measure 1 more cup of cheese. Again, I'm just gonna start small and then go from there. It just depends how cheesy you'd like your mac and cheese. Okay, so let's see how much that is. I'm just gonna get it all off the bottom here. Okay. It looks like I have about another 1 cup of cheese. Perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with that. Okay. Once you're done grating your cheese, we are actually going to start adding this to our milk sauce that is on the stove right now, okay? So as soon as you're done grating your cheese, we're gonna come back to the stove. Okay everybody, we are back on the stove with our milk sauce here. So right now I have my heat on the lowest setting possible. And now we are going to begin adding small handfuls of cheese to our milk, and we're slowly gonna stir it all in. So here's my first handful. So we don't wanna do this all at once. We're just gonna do a little bit at a time until we get a really nice creamy sauce, and you're gonna be stirring constantly. And you'll notice that as you start adding cheese, it's going to get thicker, and that's okay, that's what we want. So mine's already, I can feel it getting quite thick. Just adding a scoop of cheese, like a small handful of cheese at a time. It's looking really good so far. Another handful here. I'm almost on to my last handful. As you can see here, it's getting quite thick and cheesy. And you'll notice that the cheese kind of melts into a sauce almost as we're on the stove, and that's what we want. I'm gonna go ahead and add my last little bit of cheese. It doesn't take long for all the cheese to melt in. Perfect. This is exactly what we want for a really nice creamy cheese sauce. I'm just gonna turn my stove off now and continue to mix for a second here. So at this point you should have a nice kind of thick cream sauce for our mac and cheese. So now what you get to do is you kind of get to adjust the seasoning as you would like. So for this recipe, we do need 1 teaspoon of salt, okay? And we are gonna add that right now into our cheese sauce here. So go ahead and grab your little measuring spoons here. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is I'm just taking my 1 teaspoon, dipping it into my salt, and leveling it off with a knife so that I don't get too much. So I'm going to go ahead and add my salt. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and add seasonings to this, this is where you're going to do it. So like I said earlier, I'm gonna make mine really simple with just some parsley and some black pepper. So for me, I'm not going to measure perfectly here. I'm just going to add my pepper. That was maybe about half a teaspoon of pepper, if you're wondering. I'm just gonna mix it in. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more. Perfect. And then I'm gonna add approximately 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So you can be putting in whatever spices you would like right now. This is just what I'm choosing to use for my mac and cheese. But you can use any spices that you would like. And another kind of really neat thing about this recipe is this is it. This is all we need for our mac and cheese, is our cheese sauce here with our spices and our macaroni. However, if you would like to add some extras, some great things that you can add as long as they are cooked ahead of time, that's very important. You can add some ham, bacon, onions, cheese, mushrooms, peppers, broccoli, or even cauliflower. So all of those are super great in mac and cheese, and they are all extras that you can add into your mac and cheese. Again, as long as they are cooked ahead of time. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and combine these together. Okay, we are on to the very last step of our recipe. We are going to add our cheese sauce to our pasta here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna do this directly in my pot here. I just find it the easiest way. So I'm gonna add about half of my sauce to start with, because remember, you may not need all of the cheese sauce. This is kind of now up to you. You can add as much of the cheese sauce or as little of the cheese sauce as you would like. So I'm just starting by mixing in half. That looks fantastic. So for me personally, I'm just gonna add a little bit more of my cheese sauce. So in total, I've used about 3/4 of my cheese sauce. If you would like to use it all, go ahead and use it all. This is totally now up to you and your judgment of how you like your mac and cheese. Okay, this is a really good time where if you have something extra that you would like to add into your mac and cheese, go ahead and do that now. It could be ham, bacon, peas, mushrooms, peppers, anything extra that you would like to add, go ahead and do that now. So this is it. Our mac and cheese is ready to be scooped and served, and it looks delicious. So absolutely If you can, I would serve it now while it is still warm. So yeah, that is our very simple mac and cheese recipe. And I hope that you were able to follow along with me as you did this. And I really enjoyed this recipe because I think it's simple, it's easy for you to do at home, and it's really quick as well. So please, as always, send me a photo of what you made, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in.